Okay, so welcome to Videography Tutorials with Littlemusicbear. And today I'm going to tell you the basics of recording a film. Now just wait for this to load first. Okay, so I have this. Okay, so in recording a film, I'll be covering different types of shots as well as how to settle the logistics that is required for filming to make your filming process even more smoother. Okay, so first up, let's move forward. Now, do you still remember the types of shots? If you have not, I would recommend that you try to go and recall all the types of shots first. You can always Google it for the different types of shots that you want in your film, because this is one of the basic things that would make up your film, and with the knowledge it will allow you to plan your storyboard more easily. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time going through this, so it's just a quick recap. We have many types of shots like extreme long, bird's eye, long, medium close-up, extreme close-up, over the shoulder and point of view, of which extreme long can be used to capture the entire scene, while extreme close-up is used to capture emotions. So all these are really different in the kind of feeling they want to invoke on the audience. As you can see here, these are some examples of shots, and since bird's eye shots is not here, I will just briefly explain. For bird's eye view, you just go to a high point or try to record with the assistance of a camera drone, and you just take down from height, and you'll see from an angle of a bird's eye, you are able to see the entire scene from an angle above, which will be able to let your audience feel and know what the scene is all about. Also, for over-the-shoulder shot is also not featured here, but you can go and look it up if you want. It's for you to try to film using a second-person perspective, where you go behind the shoulder of the first person and you film the second person. So it shows like as though you are the first character that is talking to the second character. So it kind of involves the audience when they're watching. And if the second character is accusing the first character of something, the audience would feel it like three-dimensional effect. So it would be quite good to have this. Okay, next. Making a plan. Now, I'm sure you have known that planning isn't really easy for a lot of things, or some people just don't like to plan at all. But sometimes it may do some good to do some simple planning. Not like for this, but always character maps. Even so, you need not write down all your plans. With technology now, you can just save all your plans into voice recording, and everybody can just refer it when you share it on Google Drive. So you also need to have a setting, location, and backup plan. Now, because you cannot guarantee if the place that you're going to be filming would be suitable and available for you on the day itself. Sometimes you want to film in a park, but it rains and you need to change your plans. And in order not to waste time and call everybody back again for a second time, it would be very helpful for you to set up a backup plan in case if you can't use this place, you still have an alternative venue to use. Main intent or message. Now, if you have learned when investigating sources that certain sources or even all sorts of media content tend to have a message or purpose to convince your audience to do something, or just to instill some kind of value, or meaning behind the film. It's actually pointless watching something that is literally meaningless, but the purpose could be as simple as advertising a place or getting somebody to follow in the footsteps of a particular character. So these are very simple ideas that you can think about. It will be covered in the planning a film tutorial, which will be released next after this. Interviewees. Now, it's best to select and know what your interviewees are comfortable with sharing beforehand to avoid any awkward moments where the interviewee doesn't wish to share something and the camera just keeps on running and you don't want to film again. To cut out the point, and it will make the job much easier for the editor as well. And finally, if you're crowded or inaccessible places, common sense, do not bring bulky equipment. Number one, I would say it attracts a lot of attention. And number two, it could be a hazard and it may block people's way. For example, it is not really acceptable to bring an entire tripod or dolly being set up outside a main entrance of the building. This would actually cause a lot of interruptions and would affect the flow of human traffic and cause crowding. And some people may not want to be captured and they may be mistaken. So always try to go small if you are in a crowded or less accessible place, like somewhere where many people are passing by. Next slide. Equipment. Now, it would be something that I don't even need to tell you that you need a camera to film. Yes, everybody knows you need a camera to film. But these are all the things that you could have considered. Right? Just recognizing you don't need all of them for any particular project, but you have to see if according to what you're filming, how long you're filming, and where you're filming. So spare batteries. If you on a DSLR video camera, you should be able to see the battery remaining time. So please estimate and make sure you have at least 30 minutes of excess battery in case anything goes wrong. You still can have time to refilm another take. But it's always wiser to bring a spare battery around in case it runs out and you don't need to go back to grab it again. Resolution, I would say I recommend 1080 pixels or even greater because it can be viewed when portrayed in a 16:9 ratio, which is the ones you commonly use on YouTube or on television. It will appear clear enough. If your resolution is too small, when you view on your phone, it's clear, but when you view on a big screen, certain parts may appear a little blurry. So do take note of that. So tripod stand dolly is used to support your camera, but please do not bring it to crowded places, as I've said earlier. It's more appropriate to use in open areas. Reflector is used outdoors when there's sunlight. So if you do not remember where to put the reflector, you just remember the law of reflection. Angle of incidence equals to angle of reflection. So you have to see the incident ray from the sun will bounce off the reflector so that the amount of light you capture in your video is just nice. But never use a reflector indoors without a presence of strong artificial light. If not, it's going to create a shadow effect. And also make sure that the reflector and the shadow of the reflector and the shadow of the person holding the reflector is not in the film. If not, it will be rather hilarious. Camera light, yes, it's the same thing. Only use indoors and usually in studios, and you can supplement it with a reflector if needed. Okay, recording device. A lot of people think that the camera audio is good enough, but when you're very far away, it's always advisable to have a separate recording device so that your voice quality can also be of similar high definition. If not, the voices are not uniform and it is very obvious to the audience. For the recording device, I would try to say that or emphasize that it is best to have all the recording devices set at the same quality to ensure that people don't see the difference in the equipment that you are using and it sound a little bit abnormal. Spare SD cards, because you are taking a video, you sure need a lot of storage, so 32 gig or bigger. And a fast read speed will enable you to transfer the files faster. No one wants to plug the card into a computer and spend hours just letting the computer run. It's a waste of time, basically. And also, bring along your props and water if you're filming for long periods of time to stay hydrated. And remember, those people talking in the film also need to have a water break as well. Okay, so once you arrive, you look out for the sun direction and prepare the reflector. As I previously mentioned, you have to get the angle right. If not, your reflector is just going to form a shadow and destroy your film. And you shouldn't remove too much spare batteries or equipment unless they are needed, because the weather is rather unpredictable. In case it rains or in case you have to leave the place for whatever reason, it's easy to pack. You won't need to waste a lot of time dispensing your equipment, so only take out what you need. If you are moving around, it's advisable to use a handheld tripod. So you can always use a smaller camera accompanied with a handheld tripod, which is mostly used for vlogging, instead of a dolly stand where you have to wheel it around like a trolley. It will depend on where you're going, but in public areas, I would advise a handheld tripod would be the best. Next, when filming. Now take note of your surroundings and ensure that the camera is not blocked by another person. It's very important because sometimes the person who is filming or directing blocks the camera subconsciously with a part of their shoulders, and that would actually give the editor a hard time. Keep your lens cap in your pocket. Okay, this is an important reminder. When you always have a lens cap with you, please keep it in your pocket or somewhere where you don't lose it. Don't drop your lens cap somewhere and you have to go and find it. And after that, you realize that the lens cap is just on your camera. It is a very common situation that a lot of photographers and videographers always using DSLR cameras always get into, because they lose their lens cap and they get into some form of trouble. And cameras should not be seen in video, so it should be placed, if you have multiple cameras, it should be placed diagonally across each other to ensure that the second camera is not captured in the video that's being captured in the first camera. So, to put it in simple words, the video shouldn't contain a camera or the shadow of another camera. I say focus on the subject, please don't be distracted, and if needed, please use another device to record from a nearer point if the unnecessary background noise, for example the aeroplane flying past, is very loud. Okay, hidden scripts. I'm not sure if a lot of you know that actually sometimes when people film, they do not memorize what they're saying because they are actually reading the script out from the phone. But to a audience, they would just see that you're just scrolling through your phone while talking. So it will be quite good for those people who are in the film. They would not need to memorize so many words. And from the audience's perspective, they're just looking at the phone. The audience doesn't know what's going on, and the audience doesn't know the script. And also avoid scripting word for word to make it more natural. When somebody makes a small mistake, just get the next person to cover up. Do not pause there and wait for a long time, because it's going to waste everybody's time and you have to retake everything. When filming interviews and conversations, as I said earlier, Use two cameras. Both should be facing diagonally opposite each other and shouldn't capture each other. Or side by side will be also good. Camera crew should not talk to one another while the recording is going on. If you need to talk, stay far away from the camera. Always ask for permission before filming in any shops or establishments. This is quite important because some people may accidentally capture another member of the public or some form of items that the owner of the establishment doesn't want to be shared online. So always have the permission first before you enter a private property of somebody. And lastly, medium shot is mostly recommended for recording conversations. Of course, as you have seen in the news, they will always have the head and the shoulder of a person, but they do record the legs. Next, after you're filming, hydrate yourself. As the same goes, like you just filter CM, please drink some water. Pack up all equipment and dismantle any tripod stands. Do not carry the entire tripod stand undismantled out the staircase. It's very dangerous. I'm not sure why some people still do that. And it's okay. I'm going to say it looks quite funny holding a 1.5 meter long stick up the staircase, but the tripod can fold up, and that's why you should dismantle and throw it, so that it's easier for you to carry up. Don't go to extra trouble and hit somebody else with it. Do not leave any rubbish. Okay, all these are common sense. Yeah. Even though you're not filming, you should always practice all this. And lastly, transfer your files into thumb drive backup. Because sometimes when you take files that are extremely large, the original may get corrupted or misplaced somewhere. So it's always good to have a backup so that you wouldn't need to undergo the irritation of redoing everything. Lastly, know your storage devices. I'm quite surprised to know some people do not know the difference between SD card, micro SD, and apparently take the SD card adapter, plug in the computer and say there's nothing inside. There's nothing inside because the micro SD is not inside the adapter. It's like plugging a 2-pin plug adapter inside the socket without plugging in the plug into the socket and switching on the power and expecting it to work. The same goes. Or it's like using a phone cover without the phone. The phone cover doesn't work or ring on its own, so the same goes for your SD card adapter. So for some SD cards, they have a removable micro SD and a micro SD adapter. So you can just take out the micro SD from the micro SD card adapter and you can use it to plug into your phone or to a computer. And the SD card reader is used for those that cannot be detachable, the entire SD card. But I would still say that having an SD card, micro SD adapter is the best because you can plug it in to virtually any device. Okay, transfer files to SD card to computer. There are literally many ways they can do this, and it depends on the model of the computer. So, if it has an SD card port, you can go and find it on the computer. Not all laptops would actually have it, so just insert it into the port or the micro SD with the adapter. Just take the adapter with the micro SD inside and insert it into the port. If it doesn't have a port, you can take out the micro SD from the card and insert it into the reader as shown here. This reader only is compatible with the micro SD inside, and be sure not to let the micro SD card be stuck inside. If not, you have a hard time taking it out. And just plug it in like how you plug in a thumb drive. And third method, transfer via Bluetooth. This is a good method to do it wireless for small documents. You can get it done in a few minutes, but Bluetooth is often not fast enough for you to transfer an entire long video, which it may take many hours. So I suggest you not to do so. Just plug that thing in. It will be faster if your files are very big. And also, you can download the files and transfer them to the computer. Don't move the files, or not they will go missing unless you do not want your files inside the SD card. Be sure not to lose your files somewhere in the computer storage. And remember to eject before removing the card. But based on my experience, if you forget to eject before removing the card, usually it wouldn't really cause a lot of problems. But if you do it multiple times, it's going to be an issue and it may damage or corrupt your card. And finally, edit. Don't have too many editors to avoid wasting your time for disagreements, because different editors are familiar with different softwares, and also if two different editors have different styles and you cannot collaborate together, you see two parts of the videos are slightly different in style, and it is going to be very obvious to the audience. And finally, export the video when you're done. It's going to be a long wait. Just leave the laptop running and go and do something else instead of staring at the screen for a few hours waiting there. And there you go, mission accomplished, and thank you. It's been a pleasure to be able to share this tutorial with you, and I hope you've learned something new today. For more videos, do visit my YouTube channel at Littlemusicbear Entertainment. Do subscribe. This video will also be available on IGTV, on my Instagram at Littlemusicbear. And that's it. Escape. I'm finally done.